The last time I was kicked out of the car by Songwang, I knew that it was all over between him and me. I wasn't as sad as I had imagined. In fact, I was even a bit relieved. I chose the blind date partner arranged by my family and prepared to study abroad in Germany with him. On Songwang's birthday, our friends teased, "I wonder what gift Xinyan has prepared for Brother Wang." Needless to guess, Xinyan will definitely give Brother Wang that piece of land he took a fancy to some time ago. But I didn't show up until the end of the banquet. He didn't know that I had really gone to Germany, and I really didn't want him anymore. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. On Friday morning, I received a message from Songwang. "Come back to the old mansion tonight at 6 o'clock. I replied, "Okay," and then threw my phone aside. When the time came, I went downstairs on time. Songwang's Bentley was parked at the door, and the driver, Uncle Wang, was standing beside it. Seeing me come out, Uncle Wang opened the door of the passenger seat. I nodded and smiled, then stepped in. As expected, I saw Songwang and Baiji sitting in the back seat of the car. The two of them were chatting and laughing, as if they didn't see me. I was glad to be left alone and leaned back on the seat, closing my eyes to rest. After a while, Baiji seemed to notice that there was an extra person in the front passenger seat. She said in a soft voice, "Sister Xinyan, I'm sorry. Did we disturb you?" In the past, I would definitely have retorted something like, "If you know you're disturbing me, why don't you shut up?" Or, "Who do you think you are? You don't even deserve to talk to me." But this time, I didn't. I shook my head and said calmly, "No, you can go on." Baiji was stunned for a moment, and then said, "It's all because Wang was talking to me that I didn't notice, Sister Xinyan. Sister Xinyan won't be angry with me, will you?" As she spoke, Baiji stuck out her tongue playfully and then hugged Songwang's arm. "Ah, Wang, please say something nice to Sister. It's the first time Aji is meeting Grandpa today. We can't make Grandpa angry. Don't be afraid, Aji," Songwang said indulgently, and then a comforting kiss landed on her side face. When he turned to look at me, his eyes were cold, as if there was a hint of warning. "Xinyan won't be angry, right?" Although it wasn't the first time that Songwang had questioned me because of Baiji, my heart still ached uncontrollably. In his heart, I was actually so insignificant. I laughed self-deprecatingly. Of course, I disdain that. I don't know which word I said offended Songwang, and the air pressure around him suddenly dropped terribly. He squinted his eyes and called me by my full name, Xinyan. "What do you mean?" I sat up straight and looked at him through the rearview mirror. I said I disdain to do that, and I won't do it either. "Is that okay, Mr. Song?" This was the first time I addressed him like this. After I finished speaking, Songwang suddenly fell silent. I didn't plan to look at him anymore. As my gaze quickly passed through his eyes, I suddenly remembered the first few years, when I first learned that the elders of our two families were matchmaking the arranged marriage between him and me. I was in my prime. The neighbor brother from my childhood had grown into a handsome and gentle young man. Those pitch-black and distinct eyes fascinated me deeply. Now the gentleness on him had faded, and the sharp and cold face of an adult was also particularly striking. But now, I truly didn't want to squeeze into his world anymore. Just at this moment of silence, Baiji suddenly sobbed. "It's all my fault. I made Sister Xinyan angry. I heard from Wang that he and Sister were going to the old mansion. I remembered that I was alone, so I asked Wang to take me with him. It's all my fault." She bit her lip and looked at Songwang with a wronged expression, with a teardrop still hanging from the corner of her eye. "Sister, don't be angry. Aji won't go." As she spoke, she was about to unbuckle her seatbelt, but because she was crying and flustered, she couldn't unbuckle it for a while. Songwang hugged the fidgeting Baiji, held her hand, and comforted her in his arms for a long time. Finally, Baiji fell asleep in his arms after crying herself out. When he raised his head again, the tenderness on his face turned into coldness when he faced me. "You and I both know that the arranged marriage set by the elders in the family doesn't count. You are nothing in front of Aji. I'll say it one last time. I don't like you. The only person I like is Baiji." I knew. I knew he liked her. It was such an obvious preference. Who in this circle didn't know, remembering Song Wang's words? If it weren't for Grandpa liking you and insisting on seeing you, why would I bring you along and make Aji sad? When I was kicked out of the car again, I actually let out a sigh of relief. I realized that I wasn't as sad as I had imagined. I was even a bit glad. Suddenly, I remembered my birthday at that time. Because Song Wang was in a relationship with Baiji, I was angry with him for a long time. To make me happy, he booked the entire Peninsula Hotel to celebrate my birthday. But he didn't rush in until halfway through the banquet. My little sisters noticed that I wasn't in high spirits, so they coaxed me. Mr. Song must have prepared a surprise for you and will make a grand entrance at the end. After she said that, I also thought that Song Wang must have prepared a very thoughtful gift for me, but when he opened the box, I realized that this bracelet in front of me was actually a complimentary gift of the valuable necklace around Baiji's neck. Before I could get angry, Song Wang beside me answered the phone. I heard that the voice on the other end of the phone seemed to be Baiji. "Ah, Wang, did you not close the door properly when you went out just now? There seems to be some noise in the living room. I'm alone." Baiji's voice still had a hint of a tremor, as if a kitten was acting coquettishly. My pores instantly stood on end, but Song Wang fell for it. He chuckled and said, "Be good. I'm celebrating a friend's birthday. Don't make a fuss." As soon as he finished speaking, I heard a scream, followed by a crackling and inexplicable sound. The smile on Song Wang's face faded, and he turned to look at me. "Jinyan, you can continue to have fun with your friends here. I'll go back and check on Baiji." After saying that, without waiting for me to try to persuade him to stay, he hurried away from the crowd. I don't know what possessed me at that time, but I chased after Song Wang and ran out. But I only managed to see the rear of the car speeding away. Later, I squatted by the roadside alone for a long, long time, for so long that it started to rain, for so long that the darkness turned white. Suddenly, I sat down on the ground, and my legs were numb and aching. I finally understood. Secret love has always been a chaotic battle for one person, the young man who had once made my heart flutter in my youth. Finally, his figure was slowly erased at this moment. Shinjinyan. I raised my head and saw a pair of long legs walking towards me. My gaze moved up and landed on the man's peerless and extraordinary face. He was indeed much more handsome than in the photo. In fact, a few months ago, when my father asked me if I still wanted to have the arranged marriage with Song Wang, I refused. His relationship with Baiji was more serious than any of his previous relationships. I had to admit that I had lost. Perhaps I had never really been in the game. To Song Wang, I was just a joke of an arranged marriage partner, but because Grandpa Song had saved my life, he liked me very much and wanted me to be his granddaughter-in-law. My family didn't know how to tell the old man about this. But 3 days ago, my father took out a photo and asked me what I thought. Well, he was so handsome that he stole my heart. My father laughed heartily and said that this young man from the Qing family was good and that I could get to know him. At that time, I didn't know that the young man from the Qing family my father mentioned was actually the young master of the Qing family in Jingbei. I thought you might not come, after all. The so-called childhood sweetheart, Mr. Song, who had a friendship of more than 10 years, had kicked me out of the car, and Qingyan was just a strange blind date partner. Shinjinyan, you deserve better. Don't underestimate yourself. The man's eyes were too sincere. If I didn't know that we hadn't known each other before, I might have thought he liked me. I smiled, opened the car door, and got in. Just as I was about to reach out to fasten my seatbelt, the man's breath suddenly wafted into my nose. I almost forgot to breathe. Watching his slender fingers pull out the seatbelt, his long arms seemed to encircle me in his arms. Suddenly, my heart started pounding. I didn't know where to look for a moment. After the car started, Qingyan's gentle voice sounded, "Mission should haven't had dinner yet. I wonder if I have the honor to invite Jinyan to have dinner with me. Actually, I generally don't have dinner with someone I've only met once." But this time I said, "Sure." After that day, I didn't contact Song Wang anymore. Baiji started to frequently update the daily life of her relationship with Songwang on Douyin. At first, only one of Songwang's hands was shown, then half of his shoulder, and then his side face. Finally, Songwang showed his whole face and kissed her, officially announcing their relationship. This video became a trending topic. Some netizens questioned Songwang's identity. As a result, Baiji directly said in the live broadcast that when Songwang's birthday came, she would broadcast live and let the fans meet the real person. Baiji also said that Songwang would take her to Iceland to see the aurora. During the live broadcast, she was completely surrounded by love and was extremely happy. My little sisters in the circle asked me after they knew about it, "Jinyan, don't you have an arranged marriage with Mr. Song?" Arranged marriage? No way. I opened the chat box and sent a voice message. No. Songwang and I are just ordinary childhood friends. I'll tell you in secret, he has already taken Baiji to meet his parents. Don't tell anyone else. When I said this, my little sister also understood what I meant. We tacitly stopped talking about this topic, chatted about something else, and then ended the conversation. In fact, these days, I haven't deliberately paid attention to Songwang. I just brushed through short videos during my free time when organizing materials, and naturally saw the trending topic. I had once imagined what I would do if Songwang proposed to Baiji, but now, when I saw these things, I only felt a sense of emotion. I wasn't sad, I wasn't unable to accept it, and I didn't feel like I couldn't go on living. The message notification sounded. I picked up the phone on the table and saw that the blind date partner had sent me a message. I smiled involuntarily and tapped the keyboard with my fingers. "I'm already ready. Okay, see you tomorrow." The next day, Qingyan accompanied me to the school to go through the procedures needed for studying abroad. He walked with me on campus, and we were like a couple who had just started dating. I told him some things about the school, and he would say a few words when listening. When I talked about something funny, he would also laugh with me. With Qingyan, I felt a long-lost sense of ease. "I'm going back to the dormitory to pack some things. Do you want to go back first?" I regretted it as soon as I said it, but I was too embarrassed to ask him to wait for me. However, Qingyan smiled and ruffled my hair. "It's okay, go and pack. I'll wait for you downstairs." My heart started pounding again. I ran into the building with a red face. When climbing the stairs, I unconsciously touched the place where his hand had been and suddenly laughed out loud. I didn't have many things in the dormitory, and soon I went out carrying a bag. "Thank you for waiting for me. Let's go. I'll treat you to the spicy hot pot at the back door of the school." "Okay." Qingyan skillfully took the bag from my hand. When he took a step, I caught up with him unexpectedly. I bumped into Suzuki, who was about to send his girlfriend back to the dormitory. I was quite familiar with Suzuki. He was one of Songwang's many brothers. He always teased me for following Songwang around like a little housekeeper. At this time, his gaze landed on Qingyan and me, and he asked with a hint of doubt, "Jinyan, who is this?" The arranged marriage relationship between Qingyan and me hadn't been revealed yet. To reduce unnecessary trouble, I pretended to smile shyly and said, "This is the errand boy I hired." It was obvious to anyone that I was talking nonsense. Suzuki didn't know what he had thought of. He frowned and looked at me, his tone very serious. "Jinyan, it's good that you've figured it out." After thinking it over, Suzuki still called Songwang. He and Songwang had been brothers for more than 10 years. Seeing Jinyan appear by Songwang's side, although Songwang always said that he was annoyed by this girl from the arranged marriage, he acquiesced to Jinyan's every appearance. He always felt that Songwang had feelings for Jinyan, but he was just confused now. As an outsider, he could still see things somewhat clearly. Well, it was up to him to take action. Otherwise, if this matter got messed up, there would be plenty of people who would regret it. "Brother, are you busy recently, you and Jinyan?" Before Suzuki could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Songwang. "Su-er, you seem to be quite free recently. Did that girl Jinyan ask you to be a lobbyist?" Songwang knew that Jinyan hadn't contacted him recently because she was angry with him. She was annoyed that he had put all his thoughts on Baiji, but this time, Xinxian had grown some backbone and had endured not disturbing him for so long. However, a little girl was still a little girl. She had used her brain this time. She had learned to find a lobbyist. No, it's not. I saw Xinyan with a boy today. Songwang sneered and said indifferently, "Come on, don't I know Xinxian? She will only revolve around me. What boy? You're starting to make up lies with her as a lobbyist. You have time to play with little girls, but I don't. You tell her that if she uses such means to attract my attention again, it won't just be half a month of ignoring her." Saying this, he sneered again. "It seems that I've been too indulgent to her. All right, I still need to discuss the birthday party with Baiji later. Don't call me again on Xinyan's behalf." Suzuki scratched his hair irritably. Why was his brother so difficult to communicate with today, on Songwang's birthday? Qingyan and I had already boarded the plane to Germany. I didn't tell anyone else about studying abroad in Germany, and there was no need to tell Songwang either among the school leaders. After all, Songwang and Baiji were deeply in love, and no one would bring this up to upset him. Early that morning, I went out wearing a woolen coat. The driver of Qingyan's family saw me and quickly ran over to take the suitcase from my hand. Opening the car door, Qingyan was sitting in the back seat in casual clothes, holding a delicate lunchbox in his arms. When he saw me, he smiled. "Xinyan, coming quickly. I brought your favorite breakfast." The man had a delicate face, with his eyelashes drooping, looking like a cute big dog. He was kind of cute. I suddenly remembered that Songwang used to treat me so considerately too, but now, I shook my head, stepped into the car, and unceremoniously took the lunchbox from his arms. Looking at the man who seemed to be waiting for praise, I smiled with my eyes curving. "Thank you, Yen Master Cheng, for the breakfast." In the early morning when it was still dark, the black luxury car sped away in the twilight. In the first-class cabin, I followed behind Qingyan, and my gaze accidentally swept over his buttocks. Well, are all men's butts so perky? Also, his legs were really long. I don't know why some inappropriate thoughts suddenly popped up in my head. While my thoughts were wandering, I tripped over my own feet with my left foot and landed right in his arms. When our eyes met, I felt inexplicably embarrassed. Although our two families had already decided on the arranged marriage and we were in a relationship as an engaged couple, but after all, we didn't know each other very well yet, even though this person gave me a good impression, and even though he looked like a big dog when he lowered his eyes. But it really seemed like I was throwing myself at him. Really, doesn't anyone want me to act in a couple of TV drama episodes? I think I'm really good at it. Although I had been following Songwang around for several years, I really didn't want Qingyan to think that I was a frivolous person. If nothing unexpected happened, he and I were going to spend our whole lives together, even if we couldn't fall in love. I still hoped that we could respect each other in the future. I really wanted to leave him a good impression, so I quickly got out of his arms and said apologetically, "I'm not like this usually, really." Qingyan clenched his fists and coughed awkwardly twice. "Well, the journey is long. Do you want to take a rest?" I nodded and sat down in my seat, then pretended to be very busy looking for a blanket. "Seriously, who booked a double bed?" The person beside me seemed to laugh softly. Then I saw a pair of big hands with distinct knuckles cover me with the blanket. I didn't dare to look into his eyes and stammered, "Thank you, thank you." To avoid the awkwardness, I directly closed my eyes and started pretending to be asleep. I woke up during the journey to have a meal, and then I went back to sleep. When I woke up again, I realized that I had actually fallen asleep leaning against Qingyan. As soon as I opened my eyes, there was a handsome face in front of me. What I could see was a sexy Adam's apple, the man's angular jaw, the perky nasal bone, and his tightly closed eyes. My goodness, was this developing too fast? Also, my neck seemed to hurt a bit. I reached out and stroked the man's thin eyelids, but I didn't expect to disturb his sleep. Qingyan opened his eyes and looked at me with a dazed expression. I really didn't know what to say. I had clearly sworn before that I wasn't like that usually, but it didn't take long for me to be caught red-handed. I was so embarrassed that I wished I could just disappear, contrary to what I expected. There was no embarrassment. Qingyan seemed not fully awake. He just squinted his eyes and adjusted the blanket, then hugged me with both hands and fell asleep again. In fact, before getting on the plane, I had received a call from Baiji. I didn't want to answer it at first, but I still pressed the answer button. Xinjian, you won't come to Ah Wang's birthday, will you? A girl shouldn't be so shameless. Don't you think, since he doesn't like you, you shouldn't keep clinging to him like a piece of gum, right? I used to be easily provoked by Baiji's words like these. Then when Songwing saw it, she would speak in a coquettish and insincere way, making Songwing dislike me again and again. But this time, I pressed the record button as soon as I answered the call. Then I chuckled. Who said I won't go? Just wait. When the party started, Baiji began to feel anxious and uneasy. She had told her fans that she would start a live broadcast to let them meet Songwang when it was his birthday, but at the thought of Xinjian coming, if Xinjian brought up her arranged marriage with Songwang during her live broadcast, she would slap herself. She really regretted making that call. Her original intention was to embarrass Xinjian and make her not come, who knew it would have the opposite effect. She bit her lip with a worried expression. Songwang also noticed that Baiji was in a bad mood and asked gently, "What's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" Baiji curved her lips and forced a smile. "No, it's just that I told my fans before that I would start a live broadcast when it's your birthday, but now I think it might not be appropriate." Songwang put his arm around her shoulder and patted it comfortingly. "It is a bit inappropriate, but later when you start the live broadcast, I can show my face for a while. Come on, cheer up. There are so many people here." Baiji looked up at Songwang and then lowered her head again. "Ah Wang, actually I'm scared. What if Sister Xinyan mentions your arranged marriage on the internet? What should I do then? Why are you bringing this up too?" Songwang suddenly frowned. He hated it the most when others mentioned his arranged marriage with Xinjian. But looking at the tearful face in front of him, his heart softened instantly. "Okay, I'll deal with this matter. I promise no one will mention this on the internet, and no one will hurt you." After he finished speaking, Baiji visibly became happy, looking at Baiji, who immediately smiled brightly upon hearing his words. Songwang also smiled. He liked Baiji's simple nature. She was straightforward and uncomplicated. She didn't have so many twists and turns that would give him a headache. After getting Songwang's approval, Baiji's mood indeed improved. She leaned affectionately into Songwang's arms and gave him a kiss. She thought that even if Xinjian came now, she wasn't afraid. Songwang would always take her side. The initial anxiety gradually dissipated. Baiji raised her head and heard Songwang chuckling. "Look, you've cried and turned into a little cat with a smudged face." She stamped her foot playfully. "You're so annoying. I'll go touch up my makeup. Wait for me." After Baiji left, Songwang started chatting with his group of brothers. As they were talking, somehow someone mentioned me. "It's strange. Did any of you see Sister Xinyan tonight?" Saying this, everyone realized that indeed none of them had seen me that night. "Is that possible? Sister Xinyan didn't come tonight. That can't be right. No matter what party our brother had before, Sister Xinyan was always the first one to arrive." The person sitting next to Songwang suddenly bumped his shoulder and winked mischievously. "Is it because you've been too high profile with your little sister-in-law recently, and Sister Xinyan is angry with you?" Songwang glanced at that person. "Speak properly. Can't this wine shut your mouth?" Although he said that, he didn't swallow the wine in his mouth for a long time. Xinjian had indeed been a bit unusual recently, except for asking Suzuki to be a lobbyist last time. She hadn't bothered him again, but wasn't this what he wanted? Thinking of this, he shook his head and drank the wine in his mouth, but then he sneered softly. He didn't believe that Xinjian could be so patient. After all these years, he knew Xinjian too well. Later, she would definitely bring him the thing he wanted the most to please him. Songwang put down the wineglass in his hand, crossed his arms, and leaned back, his voice full of playfulness. "If she comes later, Don't let her in first. Everyone knew that this was a small punishment from Songwang because he was angry that Shinjinyan was late. Then they teased. I wonder what gift Sister Jinyan has prepared for Brother Wang. Needless to guess, Sister Jinyan will definitely give Brother Wang the piece of land he took a fancy to some time ago. Before, whenever Songwang took a fancy to something and just mentioned it casually, I would try my best to get it and give it to him. This time, Songwang thought that Shinjinyan would definitely give him that piece of land in the same way, but until halfway through the party, when 0 o'clock came, marking the moment of Songwang's birthday, I still didn't come. He frowned, and his face seemed to look not very good. Suzuki noticed Songwang's unease, leaned over to his ear, and tentatively said, "How about I call Jinyan? Maybe she's stuck in traffic on the way." Songwang didn't say anything, but he didn't say no either. Suzuki stood up and directly dialed the voice call. On the other side of the ocean, Qingyan and I had arrived in a strange country. When I lay on the big bed in the manor, I finally felt comfortable. Although there was a bed to sleep on during the whole flight, I still didn't have the sense of security of being on solid ground. In a half-asleep and half-awake state, I was woken up by the WeChat call notification. "Jinyan, why haven't you come yet?" I rubbed my swollen head and was a bit dazed for a moment. "What?" Suzuki covered his mouth and lowered his voice. "It's Brother Wang's birthday today. What's going on with you? Come quickly, we're about to cut the cake soon. Every year, you and Brother Wang cut the cake together. If you don't come, your little sister-in-law is going to cut it." Suzuki looked at Baiji, who was eager to hold the knife, and chattered on. I turned over and let out a sigh. "I'm not going. Please convey my regards to Mr. Song for me. Just wish him a happy birthday." I didn't know. When I said these two sentences, the person on the other end of the phone had already been replaced by Songwang. He listened to me calling him Mr. Song when I was talking to Suzuki. This was a strange address that I had never used before. He suddenly felt uncomfortable all over. Clearly, I used to be the most clingy to him. But now I didn't come to his birthday, he admitted. He was indeed a bit affected by my address. Perhaps deep in his heart, he didn't want me to be so distant from him. "Jinyan, it's better to say the blessings to me in person. What do you think?" I wasn't surprised to hear Songwang's voice. After all, without his permission, Suzuki wouldn't have taken the initiative to call me and ask. "Of course, if you're doing all this because of Baiji, I can only say that you're wasting your efforts. I know you must be hiding somewhere and secretly watching us. Stop being naughty and come over." I suddenly laughed. "Mr. Song, you can think whatever you want. Just don't call me again in the future." After saying that, I hung up the phone directly. To be honest, these 2 days with Qingyan, I didn't think of Songwang at all. Not even for a second. I didn't want to think about these things anymore. After taking a hot shower, I went downstairs. Qingyan was sitting on the sofa reading a book. When he saw me coming down, he put down the book, took off his glasses, and rubbed his eyes. "You're finally awake. The butler has booked a restaurant. I heard the food there is quite good." I nodded. "Then I'll change my clothes." Qingyan grabbed my wrist and said pitifully, "Have mercy on me, my lady. I'm starving to death. Can we not change? You look really beautiful in this outfit, really." Looking at his appearance, I laughed out loud. Then I made a pleased gesture to him. Soon we arrived at the selected restaurant, and the environment was indeed very nice. Although Qingyan was so hungry that he covered his stomach, he still helped me pull out the chair in a very gentlemanly manner. Then, I took a few more glances at him. I had never expected that the young master of the Qing family could be so considerate. Even Songwang in the past couldn't do this. In other words, even if I were this hungry, I probably wouldn't think of being considerate to others. I developed a little more favorable impression of Qingyan. My first meal with Qingyan in a foreign country was perfect. After the meal, he invited me to go for a walk. He said it was to cultivate our relationship. Qingyan and I walked on the streets of a foreign country, chatting casually. It started to snow gradually in the sky, and the streets began to turn white. There were fewer and fewer pedestrians on the road. but Qingyan and I were still walking together. It seemed that there were only the two of us left in the whole world. In this situation, I suddenly had the thought that it would be really nice to keep walking like this. I didn't know who held whose hand. When our fingers were intertwined, Qingyan and I looked at each other and smiled. He was wearing a black coat. There was a layer of snowflakes on his black hair. When he blinked, his eyelashes lifted the half-melted snowflakes. He was like a young man walking out of a comic book. I stood on tiptoe and swept the snowflakes off the hair strands on his forehead. Unexpectedly, this scene was captured by a girl not far away. Wow, so romantic. Don't move. I'll take one more photo. I didn't expect to run into a friend here. Qingyan and I cooperated very well and posed as she asked. Finally, she said she wanted to take one more photo for us with our phone. Qingyan directly handed his phone to her. The girl didn't snatch the phone. After taking the photo, she handed the phone back to Qingyan. Finally, we waved goodbye. I raised my eyebrows. Do you trust her so much? What if she runs away with your phone? Qingyan didn't answer me. He just smiled and then wrapped me in his arms. I leaned against his chest and listened to the sound of his heartbeat. At this moment, I suddenly felt very at ease. After 5 minutes of romance, Qingyan took out his phone and did something I didn't know. The next moment, a black luxury car appeared beside us. I pointed at the 5 cars not far away, looked up at him. Is this the answer? After returning to the manor, Qingyan and I sat by the fireplace to warm ourselves. He suddenly took my hand and said, "Shall we officially announce our relationship?" Qingyan and I had already arrived in Germany. Soon, the news of the arranged marriage between the Xin and Qing families would be released. Thinking of this, I nodded. Let's use the photo that girl took for us. How about that? The photo taken by that girl was really good. I asked Qingyan to send it to me. When I opened my phone, it showed that someone had sent me a video. I ignored it and posted a status on Moments with Qingyan. After posting, I casually opened that video. In the video, Songwang held Baiji's hand and was cutting the cake. He smiled gently. Ji, let's do it together. Then, Baiji took out the gift she gave to Songwang. It was a wristwatch. It wasn't expensive. Although it didn't match Songwang's status, Songwang still took it and put it on directly. He also showed it off in front of everyone. Everyone complimented him very obligingly. Little sister-in-law has a great taste. Look how much our brother Wang likes it. Brother Wang is so lucky. Baiji smiled shyly and hid in Songwang's arms. The video ended there. At this moment, my mood was as calm as still water. I chuckled, turned off my phone, and gently nestled into Qingyan's arms. There was a time difference between us and our home country, so when our mutual friends saw it, it happened to be when the party was coming to an end. Then the photo of Qingyan and me somehow got passed on to Songwang's brother group chat. When they were passing the photo around and looking at it, suddenly someone exclaimed, "Going this far? Is that really Xinyan in this picture? This is from Xinyan's own Moments post. How can it be fake? Does anyone know this guy? He seems quite a good match for Xinyan. SHH, keep it down." Songwang was kissing Baiji, who was sitting on his lap at that time. Suddenly, he kicked over the table in front of him. He supported his knee with his hand, and his voice was cold and stern. "What are you talking about so happily?" "Nothing. Nothing." The person who just told them to keep it down quickly turned off his phone screen and stuffed it into his pocket. Suzuki, who heard Songwang calling his name, sensed that he was really angry and quickly took out his phone from his pocket and handed it over. He also unlocked the screen, by the way. As soon as Songwang got the phone, he saw the photo of Qingyan and me kissing on the streets of a foreign country. Xinjian, you've really got some nerve. Songwang enunciated each word slowly, and then sneered. The veins on his right hand that was around Baiji bulged. "Ah, Wang, you're hurting me." Looking at the angry Songwang, Baiji playfully tapped his chest with her small fist in a coquettish manner, but then she was thrown to the ground. Baiji had tears in her eyes, covered her mouth, and looked at him in disbelief. Songwang, who had doted on her so much, actually threw her to the ground. "You're angry at Sister Xinyan?" so why take it out on me? It was deadly quiet in the private room. The people who had been lively just now all tacitly shut up and then left quietly, leaving Baiji lying on the ground, facing Songwang with tearful eyes. Seeing that Songwang didn't mean to comfort or explain, she bit her lip, got up, opened the door, and looked back several times as she left. That night, Songwang sat alone in the private room. He lit one cigarette after another, and then called Suzuki in the smoke-filled room. Is it him? Suzuki was stunned for a moment and then let out an Songwang immediately hung up the phone. After that, Songwang learned that Qingyan and I had gone to Germany. The arranged marriage between him and me was also called off after my father visited Grandpa Song and had a deep talk with him. The shackles that had been weighing on him since he became an adult vanished at this moment. But he didn't feel the slightest bit of joy. He wanted to see me. He wanted to ask me in person if it was my idea that the arranged marriage didn't count, so he came here. I also didn't expect that Songwang would actually come to find me. That day, Qingyan and I walked out of the school hand in hand. He was standing under the big tree across the road, wearing a brown coat and a black scarf. He was still as handsome as before. He greeted me, Jinyan. I paused, held Qingyan's hand, and walked over. They said you came to Germany. I didn't believe it. Grandpa said the arranged marriage doesn't count anymore. How could it not count? Jinyan, as Songwang spoke, he wanted to step forward, but Qingyan stepped sideways and blocked him. I poked my head out from the side and said in a more serious tone than ever, Mr. Song, this is my fiancé, Qingyan. Qingyan, greet him. The man standing in front of me touched his nose and said naturally, brother-in-law. Songwang had an expression as if the sky was about to fall, and he couldn't accept it. After a long while, he said, Jinyan, I'll break up with Baiji as soon as we get back. Please don't play this kind of joke on me. Okay, sensing that Qingyan seemed a bit unhappy, I secretly pinched his little finger. Mr. Song, I know I've caused you a lot of trouble in the past few years. I thought my secret love started because of the arranged marriage. I mistakenly thought I liked you. Now I've found the person I truly like. I also wish you and Sister Baiji happiness. After saying that, Qingyan and I left. I could feel a strong gaze staring at me from behind, but I knew that I wouldn't look back. After Songwang returned to China, he often got drunk late at night. When Baiji came to find him, he pushed her away. Get lost. Don't touch me. I want to break up with you. He was groggy and didn't control his strength. Baiji was pushed down the stairs by him. Then, her white dress turned red. After being sent to the hospital, the doctor told them that the baby couldn't be saved. Baiji came out of the operating room with a pale face. Later, after she woke up, Songwang still told her about the breakup. Baiji, don't look for me anymore in the future. Let's part ways amicably. Baiji's eyes suddenly turned red. She grabbed his wrist and cried bitterly. Did Aji do something wrong? Why don't you want Aji anymore? No, then why? There's no reason. Baiji, I'll give you a sum of money. If you have anything to ask for help in the future, I'll help you too. Baiji looked up, her eyes red. Like a poor little kitten, Songwang looked at her. He suddenly remembered that he had never been so harsh to her before, unlike Shinjinyan. He couldn't even remember how many cold looks he had given Shinjinyan. He still remembered the first time he left her for Baiji. Her eyes were filled with tears. She looked at him so sadly, and she was as fragile as a kite. Songwang thought that at that time, he was extremely annoyed, but in fact, those sad looks were deeply engraved in his heart, until the last time, when he left Shinjinyan again. There was no longer the light of attachment to him in her eyes. When I returned to China this year, my little sister told me about Songwang and Baiji. It turned out that Baiji didn't agree to the unilateral breakup. She had finally caught Songwang, a wealthy man, and she refused to agree no matter what, even though he left her a check for 5 million yuan. Baiji couldn't find him, so she started crying and complaining on Douyin. She said she had a miscarriage and that Songwang didn't want her anymore. Netizens cursed him, and she didn't care. She just said that the baby was gone and she had been let down, as she cried. Some netizens began to sympathize with her. At first, Songwang didn't care. It wasn't until a flood of press releases appeared, he realized that he had underestimated Baiji. Just then, someone sent him a package. When he opened it, dozens of photos of Baiji with different men scattered out. Songwang suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He lost Shen Jinyan for such a woman. After dialing the internal line, he asked his assistant to investigate Baiji. Soon, Baiji's information appeared on his desk. What kind of woman was she? Plastic surgery, escorting for drinks, soliciting customers, gambling, being a mistress. He covered his chest. It was so dirty. He directly took action and released Baiji's scandalous information online. Netizens started cursing her again. Baiji was driven off the internet by the scolding. When she was at the end of her rope, Songwang appeared. After that, Baiji disappeared. Later, there were rumors in the circle that Songwang had sent Baiji to northern Myanmar. In the third year that Qingyan and I were in Germany, he proposed to me on the streets of a foreign country. It was a very precious blue diamond that he had bought at an auction house a few days ago. It was of great value. I liked it very much, so I agreed with Qingyan. I don't have to worry about who he will take sides with, because he always stands by me. He gave me enough security in this relationship and spoiled me like a child. Qingyan, why do you like me? I leaned against his arms and looked at the stars in the sky. Qingyan smiled gently and kissed my red lips. Jinyan, you are very excellent. I love you because you are worthy of being loved. It's my honor that you accept my love. You see, after staying abroad for 3 years, he has also become good at talking. It was later when he got drunk and let it slip, I finally knew. It turned out that a certain young man had fallen in love with me at first sight, but the first sight was in high school. He had a low blood sugar episode when he came out of the laboratory and happened to meet me who was going to find Songwang. I shared half of the chocolate that I originally planned to bring to Songwang with him. Since then, his love for me took root deeply. Later, when he saw that I got along well with Songwang, he silently blessed us in his heart. But when he heard about me again a few years later, I was the one who was hurt. He told himself, if Songwang didn't cherish Shen Jinyan, then he would. He asked his eldest brother to propose marriage to the Shen family. That day, Qingyan spent several hours dressing up in front of the full-length mirror, but in the end, he didn't get to meet me. Fortunately, later, I sent him a help message. When we met again, he called me Shen Jinyan on that day. Cupid shot his golden arrow into the hearts of Qingyan and me. That was the first time my heart fluttered. Epilogue, Songwang's perspective. When Songwang was 30 years old, Shen Jinyan and Qingyan got married. It was a luxurious and grand wedding with the union of two powerful and wealthy families. As an old acquaintance, he was also invited. He watched as Shen Jinyan, wearing a handmade wedding dress worth a fortune, walked step by step to Qingyan's side. He thought that after all these years, he had already let go, but at this moment, he clearly realized that he could never forget his past with Shen Jinyan, but it was he himself who had lost her with his own hands. He raised his head and drank a glass of wine, then left the wedding. He didn't want to see Shen Jinyan and Qingyan exchange rings. He didn't want to see them kiss. He didn't want to admit that he had lost the one he loved forever. Thinking back to the first few years, he and Shen Jinyan were tied together because of the arranged marriage. Shen Jinyan always followed him around. In fact, he was happy about it in his heart. But how did it turn out like this later? He thought that maybe it was because Shen Jinyan was too good to him. People are all a bit masochistic. He didn't like an unchanging life. With Shen Jinyan, the future was predictable at a glance. When I came out, Uncle Wine opened the door of the passenger seat. With the support of the Shen family, the Song family's business went smoothly. For the projects he wanted, as long as he mentioned it, Shen Jinyan would try every means to get them for him. For the land he wanted, it would appear under his name the next day. As long as he wanted something and she had it, she would give it to him. But he was afraid that others would say he was a kept man, so he treated Shen Jinyan worse and worse. It was as if he could prove something in this way. After the arranged marriage no longer counted, although Father Shen still provided support out of gratitude for Grandpa saving Xinyan's life, but it was finally not as good as before. He also went from being the Yen Master Song in the past to the Yen CEO Song now. Later, he never saw Shen Xinyan again. His whole life was, after all, in vain.